Hello everyone, it's me, John Lorden. Welcome to another episode of Brain Scratch Case Cracked. This is a story that is making national news right now. As a matter of fact, the big crack in this case came only about a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week from when I'm shooting this. There is still a whole judicial process to go through, but in terms of the actual mystery at hand, I believe we have the answer, so we're here to talk about it. This is the case of Karina Vetrano, and it takes place in New York at a place called Howard Beach, which is an upper middle class neighborhood in the borough of Queens. 30-year-old speech therapist Karina Vetrano had earned her master's degree from St. John's University just in 2015. People that know her say she is brave, full of life, light, and power. She enjoys writing poetry and traveling. There are several mentions of her taking trips with her family, even a road trip with her father. August 2nd, 2016. Karina goes out for a usual Tuesday run. She slips through a gate and onto a path through Spring Creek Park, quickly sending a text message to a friend while she's out there. That would be the last time, unfortunately, that anyone hears from Karina. She was less than 1 mile from her home when she was sexually assaulted and brutally strangled. Her father, Phil Vetrano, a retired firefighter, is actually the person that found her only about 15 feet off the running path, face down in the weeds. It's a path that he had gone running with his daughter on several times before. He would have even been with her that day if it wasn't for some back pain that kept him at home. He had previously cautioned her against running alone in that area. The overgrowth could provide cover to any number of dangers. Now, a memorial lies there in memory of Karina. There were few clues found at the scene by investigators. Her cell phone was found. Some people saw a person of interest in the park around the time of the murder, and a sketch was created based off that information. At the time that the sketch was released, the police said this is just someone they wanted to interview. They weren't considering that person a suspect. But the biggest clue that was found was DNA under her fingernails. She apparently had scratched her assailant while fighting for her life. And they also found DNA on her back as well as on her cell phone that obviously wasn't hers. They ran searches on that DNA, and unfortunately there was no match made, meaning that it was very likely that the assailant had no previous criminal record. Only 2 days before this, she broke up with her boyfriend. He was interviewed and quickly cleared by police with a solid alibi, though. The sketch wasn't providing any good leads, and surveillance cameras didn't appear to capture the suspect either. Karina's family were pleading for help from the public to help identify her killer. Police received over 250 tips and took 600 DNA samples. Still no matches and no crack in the case. 7 months pass. But this case would hardly have a chance to go completely cold thanks to a lieutenant that works in the Chief of Detectives office. Lieutenant John Russo also lives in Howard Beach with his wife and 2 young daughters. In May of 2016, he heard about a 911 call relating to a suspicious person that hit a little too close to home. On his day off, John drove around the neighborhood looking and eventually found a potential suspect. He was lurking around parked cars, possibly casing them or casing the neighborhood. John called it in and made sure that active officers interviewed the man and took his information. 9 months later, when Karina's case was being investigated, John recalled this man and told the detectives about him. A few days after that, the man was interviewed by police and willingly gave a DNA swab. 3 days later, the man was identified as a match to the DNA found on Karina Vetrano. 3 hours later, he was in police custody. Chanel Lewis, 20 years old from East New York, admitted to doing it when he was arrested. The day after the attack, he went to an emergency room to be treated for a head and hand injury. He told them that he had been attacked by a group of muggers. He is being held currently at Rikers Island without bail, awaiting trial for second-degree murder. His lawyers are asking media not to rush to immediate judgment. However, I have to say this case seems fairly strong, considering the evidence at hand. You have 2 potential confessions from him. You have DNA, and you have him being treated for, it seems like, fight injuries the following day. Chanel has no arrest record and apparently no history of violent behavior, though it does appear that he graduated from a school that is for dealing with troubled youth in 2015. And his mother is quoted as saying that he suffers from a mental problem and that he needs help. Unfortunately, there's no additional detail about what this mental problem might be. As I mentioned, he has made 2 confessions, and both of those were videotaped. In those confessions, he indicated he was angry about something that had happened at home, and he left. He wandered into the park, and when he saw Karina, he just lost it. He is denying that there is any sexual assault that occurred as of those confessions. Many other sources are stating that Chanel didn't know her at all. He just simply hated women. I'm not sure how valid that statement is. From what I've seen, I believe he was living with his mother and sisters, but that's just what's being reported in the media. Though he has no arrest record, he did have 3 summonses dating back to 2013, and 2 of those summonses were for breaking rules in that same park where Karina was found. Karina's family had set up a GoFundMe campaign to raise reward money, and that generated over $280,000 for finding the killer. Karina's father now states that that money will go to her favorite charities, and he's also asking for suggestions from the donators on the GoFundMe page. He's also considering starting a scholarship at her former high school in her name and in her honor. And he states that she lived more in those 30 years than 10 people would in a lifetime. When I started reviewing this case, of course, it made me consider the story that we heard about the Sherry Papini case. There is still many, many questions we have in that case, but we've had a few cases over this past year that are dealing with women going running alone. And I personally think it's pretty terrible that we have to consider things in this way, but if there's anything to take from this story, I do believe it's that women that are going running alone should try to do it as safely as possible. I know some people carry mace when they're running. Some people are sure to tell a friend or neighbor when they're leaving, where they're going, and when they should be back, and then get a check-in on the way back. It's really unfortunate to me that these are the types of times that we're living in, but I do think that being safer is probably a smart move in this. And of course, the best thing is if you can go running with a friend or family member, that ultimately should provide you the most safety, especially from something so unforeseeable as this. I mean, this guy did not know her. He apparently was in a rage about something else completely different that happened. And unfortunately, she became the focal point of that. My heart, of course, goes out to her family, and I hope that they are able to... It's weird because early in this case, you can see that while they're in despair, there is a positivity that they have that justice will come. Now that there has been some court appearances, they're starting to lash out a little bit, and I think that's completely understandable. But I just hope that they are able to deal with this in a way where that anger and hate doesn't consume them and change them into something that they don't want to be. I don't think that that would be the best way to honor Karina's memory. But from what I can see, it seems like they are very resilient, strong people, and I just wish them the best in moving through all this. So. If there are any significant developments, of course, I will fire up the camera, let you guys know about it. But in terms of the mystery of what happened to Karina when she went out for her run, that case is indeed cracked. Now we do have some questions about how the court case is going to go. Are they going to go for some type of defense about him not being mentally competent, or some other defense along those lines? I think there's still a lot of turns to take in this story yet. We'll have to wait and watch and see how all of that plays out. I hope you're having a good day. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I hope to see you back here very soon on the Lord and Arch channel. Take care.